a terrifying day for those who experienced this earthquake. It was a very, very scary earthquake indeed, a very violent shaking motion that broke the stillness of the early morning hours, 4:31 a.m. Pacific time. Since then, there have been well over a dozen aftershocks, some of them quite strong, as a matter of fact, according to seismologists, some of them pushing the 5 level on the Richter scale, those quite significant as well, raising a lot of concerns that additional damage will be recorded now, since many buildings and structures, including underwater pipes, gas mains, freeways, of course, were badly damaged in the initial phases. So these are the sorts of things that we are confronting. We want to take you now to KTLA, one of our affiliates here. They are showing some aerial pictures at this hour from the Northridge area. This is where that apartment building collapsed. So far, as we've mentioned, 14 known dead there. It is in this general area that a derailment, a freight train derailed. That train, according to the Southern Pacific Railway, was carrying some hazardous materials. No leaks reported, but it shows you the sorts of things that you take for granted that can happen. Let's listen in as we get this aerial tour over Northridge.
The numbers on the Richter scale, it's not arithmetic. And so the difference between a 6.6 and a 7 is tremendous. Yes. A 6.6 to a 7.6 is about 30 times greater. The 7.6 would be 30 times greater than a 6.6. Well, people have a right to expect that if we are living in earthquake country, that the freeway is going to be there should there be an earthquake.
We have started to tell people lately that in case there is a big one, to protect your own self, it's important.
The street all the way down there where these cars were parked and burned on the spot. This is a couple of blocks on Wolfskill across the street from Melvany Elementary School. On the sidewalk here, I'm going to show you a motorcycle. If you can see that, the ruins of a motorcycle, the driver of that motorcycle, I'm told, was driving here to check on his parents, and when he reached this spot, it just erupted, and he was burned and taken to a hospital. There were utility poles also caught on fire and burned, cutting off electricity into this area. We're going to turn over here now. Four Corners Oil Company sent crews out, and they are now trying to repair this pipeline by digging it out. They have found the source of the break. They have to replace it, and in the meantime, they have brought lots of sand in here because they felt that there was still somewhat of a danger.
Warren,
with the oil still down, some of it still running, although they have shut down the pipeline, but they still thought there was a danger here, and they brought in some sand to try and reduce that to a minimum risk. That's about the story here. 14
Our thanks
cars.
to our affiliate KTLA for taking us on that tour earlier in the day. I had seen some interviews with residents of that area. They described one car after the other just blowing up in succession as the explosion moved down that underground pipeline that the correspondent was referring to. Our thanks also to affiliates KCAL, KTTV, and KCOP for their help and cooperation, for helping furnish their coverage throughout the day. The very dramatic pictures would not have been available without them, and of course without the valiant efforts of our crews and correspondents who've been out since the very early hours of this very frightening morning across Los Angeles. Bringing you up to date at this hour, there are 24 confirmed dead. There are some 270 people injured to one degree or another as a result of the great earthquake of 1994 that struck at 4:31 a.m. Pacific time this morning. I'm Frank Sesno. I'll be back later with Judy Woodruff with The World Today. When we come back, we will have emergency numbers for the Los Angeles area in case you've been trying to get through and cannot. And of course, the very latest earthquake information. Again, we will be back in just a moment. We hope you'll stay with us.
24-hour news channel. Straight ahead, live on News 10 at 6. Tonight's top story.
It took only seconds for an earthquake to devastate parts of Southern California. Tonight you'll see the damage firsthand, live from L.A.
Plus,
afraid for their safety.
I'm Donna Didi. For those with loved ones near the quake, the agony of not knowing is unbearable.
And
I have a dream.
Is his dream from the 60s still alive in the 90s? I'm Rebecca LeClaire with What Young People Think.
now, live, local, and up to the minute. This is News 10.
Good evening. It came in the pre-dawn hours. Our top story, the powerful, deadly earthquake in L.A.
The death toll is now 24. 14 people were killed when this three-story apartment building collapsed. Rescuers did find at least one person alive. The quake cracked freeways, including the nation's busiest, fire-devastated buildings, including this mobile home park, and the tremor ruptured underground gas and water mains.
For the very latest on this deadly quake, we now go live via satellite to John Gibson in L.A.
Except for that.
24 people have died in this earthquake so far, some of them in some very odd circumstances. A house collapsed, killing 2. A policeman on his way to work died when his motorcycle sailed off a severed chunk of freeway. There have been numerous fires all day long, and many collapsed buildings. One, in fact, where about a dozen people died. It was in that building that the real story of the day occurred. That's the story of rescues. In the Northridge apartment building that collapsed and claimed so many lives, firemen found one man alive. Ben Morales was buried under tons of rubble, but miraculously not hurt too badly.
You feel numbness at all, or? I'm fine. Okay.
Sir, we got some more people trapped down there.
After Ben Morales was rescued, another man was found in the rubble and brought out alive.
They got him, they got him, they got him, okay?
Meanwhile, through the day, firefighters were digging through the rubble of a collapsed parking structure at a Northridge mall, looking for survivors. Several major freeway overpasses collapsed. A policeman on his way to work was one of those killed when the freeway fell down. The quake started several major fires. Homes were destroyed in a mobile home park. And all over the San Fernando Valley, ruptured underground gas lines burned through the streets unchecked. At least one person was killed in one of these gas-fueled infernos. President Clinton has signed a disaster declaration that means $1 billion worth of aid coming to L.A. Meanwhile, the governor of California has sent 1,500 National Guardsmen in to help local authorities. Fires are still burning at this hour. Major freeways in Los Angeles are out of commission and will be for months, if not years. And the water department is telling residents that they must boil the water before they drink it. John Gibson, NBC News, Los Angeles. Now back to you.
All right, thank you, John. For local residents who have loved ones in that region, the worst thing is not knowing how they are.
Sure. Joining us now in the newsroom, Donna Didi. Donna, you spoke with several people who have relatives in L.A.?
I did, Gabe, and as soon as the earthquake hit, the phone lines were jammed from the West Coast to the East Coast. The transplants from Rochester living on the Pacific Coast wanted to let everyone back home know they felt it, but they're all right.
But in addition to the southbound 14 being shut down...
Kathy Keach and her children were glued to the images coming from their TV today. Her mother and father live in Pasadena. What were your first thoughts?
First thoughts were family and friends. Afraid for their safety, You know, 2-story homes, you're never sure about collapse and things like that.
Keach's parents are fine. She spoke to them first thing this morning, and so did we.
We had a shaker, which is, you know, like a being on a vibrating bed. If in one of those motels, you're on a vibrating bed.
I understand that we do have 5 confirmed dead in this apartment house.
Mary Finley of Fairport couldn't tear herself away from the news either. Her son John lives in Huntington Hills, California. He called her as soon as the earth shook.
I wondered what had happened now.
This is my first one, and it's pretty wild. I was trying to sleep, and I was a little annoyed that it woke me up. But it was, I don't know, it just rocked.
All his mother knows is that she's glad he called.
If not, what would you have thought, and what would you have done? As any mother would do, start worrying.
And she's still worried when she saw all the damage. Another local native experienced his first earthquake on the 16th floor of a hotel in Century City.
I thought a burglar or an intruder was picking up the bed or on top of the bed, jumping up and down. Turned out, as I was more awake, I realized it was a bad earthquake.
And you're a transplant to Rochester. Looking there, are you glad you're here?
A lot of times we are, although you look outside at all the snow we have, and there, you know, the weather currently is in the 70s, that you have second thoughts every now and then.
Well, you tell me how cold it is, and I'll tell you where I want to live.
And that offers at least some perspective for those of us on the East Coast who often ask in the wake of a disaster like this, who would want to live on the West Coast? They apparently feel the same way about us dealing with blizzards. I'm Donna Dede reporting live in the newsroom. Gabe, Janet.
All right, Donna, thank you very much. And here's a 1-800 number the Red Cross has set up for you to get information about friends and family out in California. That number, you see it there, 1-800-540-2000. A brief recap of today's powerful quake. The death toll is now 24. Most of the deaths were in the collapse of an apartment building and overpasses of a couple of freeways. There have been repeated aftershocks and more are expected, and we'll have more on the story from NBC's Nightly News. And tonight at 11 on News 10, you will hear from local ham radio operators who've been in touch with people on the West Coast and are trying to hook them up with loved ones back here.
Los Angeles area. The quake and dozens of aftershocks have crushed buildings, mangled highways, cut power and water supplies, and inflicted a human toll that is still rising.
This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from Southern California.
Good evening. Once again, the dream of a good life in Southern California has taken a major jolt. This area is still trying to recover tonight from a major earthquake that struck early this morning in the San Fernando Valley in Northridge, which is about 10 miles northwest of where I'm standing, and it did major damage throughout the Los Angeles basin. It was 6.6 on the Richter scale. 5 major highways have been cut, water supplies threatened, gas mains have exploded, a half dozen communities have exploded in flames, and the death toll has been going up all day long. We begin tonight with a big picture from NBC's Larry Carroll.
The quake struck an area where more than 1 million people live. So far, at least 24 people are known dead. Hundreds have been injured. Early estimates of property damage are in excess of $500 million. The force of the quake shut down power grids, plunging thousands of households into darkness.
The ceiling fell down. My kitchen is totally destroyed.
Gas lines ruptured and fires raced out of control in heavily populated residential communities. 5 homes were consumed instantly when this gas main exploded, sending flames 100 feet into the air. The blast ruptured this water main, but dozens of others were shaken loose by the quake, sending torrents of water into valley streets. The smog mixed with smoke from more than 50 fires, and the extent of the damage began to hit home. Dead inside the rubble of the hillside home were 2 people, one of them this woman's daughter. The quake was centered 10 miles beneath the campus of Cal State Northridge, 25 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles. At least 1 fire was reported on campus, and 1 dormitory, home to several hundred students, collapsed. Most there were reported to have escaped unharmed. But students housed in this apartment building adjacent to the campus were not so safe. 12 people died when the 2nd and 3rd stories of the complex collapsed to ground level. Also hard hit, the freeway system that serves as many as 13 million people. 3 major freeways, all recently reinforced for earthquakes, were damaged and are closed to traffic. And then there's the property damage. Hundreds of homes and businesses are damaged, many beyond repair.
I mean, they don't have electricity, they don't have water, and they were just moving. And I'm just glad to be alive.
While not the most powerful on record in Southern California, the Northridge quake may well cause the most damage. Larry Carroll, NBC News, Los Angeles.
If there is a saving grace to this disaster, it is that this earthquake hit early this morning when many people were still at home, and it is, after all, a holiday. Nonetheless, a number of people are dead tonight, many more are injured, and many people, of course, have been severely dislocated from their homes. NBC's Roger O'Neill tonight on the fight for survival here.
That pile right there, the first pile you come to is where they're at.
It was a race against time all day long, a race to save lives.
I haven't heard anybody.
Hello, is anybody there? This is all the first floor underneath here. This is the 2nd floor right here.
Is he underneath us?
Yeah. Is there anybody in there?
33 people heard the cries of rescuers at this apartment complex in the valley. But at least a dozen people were crushed to death as the 3-story building collapsed.
She's an old lady. It's just a foot sticking out on her sheet. Do you see it?
Yeah, she's gone.
For firemen, it was a day of heartbreak, but also triumph.
When you have somebody trapped in there, you just hope you can do the best to save them if they're alive.
Citizens responded to the cries of help, the cries of pain. Marco Pelias heard them after crawling out of his own apartment. He then helped pull 7 other people out of the rubble.
And they were screaming, "You don't care about anything else, you just care about
trying to get our people out of it.
At Granada Hills Community Hospital, the parking lot became a triage center. Several hospitals had to refuse the injured. Their buildings were too severely damaged.
But how did you get the cut with the piano?
What it's been like for you this morning?
Absolute hell.
Most of the injuries were not life-threatening, cuts and bruises, but still so many were in need of help, many had to wait their turn. This 2-week-old baby got immediate attention from Nurse Jack Burns, who determined the bump on her head was not serious.
Nothing prepares for a day like today. Buildings falling down over here. People are all over the place. The parking lot's staked out. Nothing prepares for this.
Few residents are prepared as they should be. Food and water becomes precious commodities. Electricity means gas lines. And pay telephones become vital links to the outside world.
Just tell them Scylla's okay.
For the next several days, city parks will be home for thousands of people. Not because their homes have been destroyed, but because this is perceived to be a safe place to be. There is still a lot of fear in LA tonight.
But for hundreds of others who were trapped, then rescued, tonight is a night to celebrate life.
Oh, that sky looks beautiful.
Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And I am joined now by California Governor Pete Wilson. And Governor, as we were just watching that report, we had another long aftershock here that lasted about 35 or 40 seconds. What can you tell us now about the extent of the damage throughout the Southern California from property loss alone?
Tom, we can't estimate what the property loss will be. It's premature to do that. Our concern right now is safeguarding human life and restoration of service. We are getting some good news. On the other hand, it is going to be probably a long night for a number of people. We will have the necessity, I think, even in areas where we expect to see a restoration of power, it may be a rather fragile structure, so we're urging everybody to have flashlights, candles. We're urging them to boil water. We've simply got to be prepared, and of course there has been damage, structural damage to the freeways. We have to assess how that can be repaired and what we can do by way of alternative routings.
Governor, you're beginning to preside over what is a permanent disaster area here in Southern California. With the fires and the riots and now this major earthquake, your economy is already in trouble. How do you begin to dig yourself out of this, given the economic dislocation that is bound to occur?
This obviously doesn't help. It will cost money. There will be disruption, particularly as it relates to some surface transportation, but already the California Highway Patrol is figuring out alternative routings for truck traffic and passenger traffic. Power will be restored. If not everyone, they will have it, I think, within a matter of, for most Angelinos, they will have, most of them will have power tonight. Some will be without water overnight. We'll get through it as we've gotten through the other problems, but it sure seems like we're getting more than our share.
Thank you very much, Governor Pete Wilson of California. And we'll tell you what the federal government is prepared to do when Nightly News continues in a moment. Of course, and then those major fires just this past fall, and now this. The extent of the damage is still to be determined, but it is major indeed. There will be economic dislocation, and today government officials at all levels, from the local all the way through the federal government, were already hard at work. We get the latest on that now from NBC's Robert Hager.
As FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, opened a 24-hour-a-day war room to supervise Washington's response, FEMA Administrator James Lee Witt and Housing Secretary Cisneros left for Los Angeles to join Transportation Secretary Pena, already there. And President Clinton promised a swift federal response.
Due to the damage caused by the earthquake, I have, by signing the document that I will sign at the end of this statement, declared these areas of California to be a major disaster. Like all of you, I was able to watch it all unfold on television. It was really something.
Clinton then signed the documents, making formal plans already well underway. For now, FEMA's dispatching 4 federally funded search and rescue teams, 5 medical teams, emergency telephone communications equipment, emergency power generators, and firefighting equipment. Long range, it'll make up to $12,000 grants to low-income victims, arrange temporary housing or rental assistance for those who are homeless, and take applications for low-interest loans up to $200,000 for home repairs. But highway damage will be the major problem for a city where many millions commute by automobile each day. A big section of Interstate 10, the Santa Monica Freeway, has collapsed. Interstate 5, the Golden State Freeway, is closed by a collapse at the intersection with California 14. California 118, the San Fernando Valley Freeway, has been damaged, and others as well. To understand how difficult it is to replace whole sections of major freeways, it's instructive to look at what happened in the San Francisco earthquake 4 years ago. Near San Francisco in 1989, there was major damage to 3 vital commuting arteries. So far, only one has reopened. 4 years later, San Francisco is still not back to normal. Los Angeles may present even greater problems. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
To give you an idea of just how quixotic the damage from an earthquake can be, take a look at this building behind me. It's pretty much collapsed, and people did get out of there alive, but they've lost a lot inside. This is a street in the San Fernando Valley in a place called Studio City. It's called Moore Park. But then look at the rest of the street. It's all quite normal. You can see that the apartment buildings up and down the street survive. There are lots of stories of survival and heroism here in Southern California. Here are some of them tonight.
Make sure there's no nails. Right there, he's gonna step on. Watch out for the nails. Everybody got him?
So I grabbed my flashlight and we jumped up there and we got this guy out. And he wasn't hurt that bad, but we took him back across and some guys took him to the hospital on that section of the freeway.
And I had to go across the street and get an invalid that was totally dead weight. And he made my shoulders ache. And we got him in the car and got him out.
We had 3 houses burning on this side of Balboa and 2 on the other, and we were losing the house down here. We've been able to save that house with shake shingle roofs. All the houses downstream without the shake roofs are doing real well.
Just a handful out.
I have a very, very, very large armoire in the bedroom. Very large. It's about 7 foot high, very big and very heavy. Next thing I knew, it landed on my head. And I'm waiting now for stitches.
We're fine. Everybody is fine. Don't worry about us. We're okay.
What's your name?
Okay, Buzz Carmen, Bill Carmen. The Carmens are okay in California. We're fine. Don't worry. We're okay.
Know that feeling? I called my mother in Southern California this morning at 5 a.m. her time. She picked up the phone and the first ring said, "I'm okay," without even wondering who might have been calling at that time. I'll be back with more on this earthquake later in the program, and we'll have the rest of the day's news in just a moment. Police are now said to be close to arresting Tonya Harding's ex-husband for the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. And more fierce winter weather has the Northeast on ice. The Midwest snowed under tonight.